The war between Hamas and Israel continues another day. The conflict started on October 7th and has had few breaks in between.
The Jewish community in Wilmington lit a Hanukkah candle tonight and hosted a vigil along the waterfront. Organizers said this peaceful ceremony is meant to take a stand against anti-Semitism. WECT's Emma Dollenmayer went to that vigil tonight. What was it like down there, Emma?
John, tonight there was no shortage of peace and hope as the community and groups like the Temple of Israel, Congregation B'nai Israel, Hadassah, the Jewish Film Festival of Wilmington, and UJA of Wilmington gathered to take a stand against anti-Semitism. Tuesday night marks the 6th night of Hanukkah, but some say it's been difficult to get into the holiday spirit.
It's a dark time right now.
A community event taking a stance against anti-Semitism is banishing that darkness, however, in hopes of a more peaceful future in Southeast North Carolina and worldwide.
We wanted to show our support for what's happening now in Israel to Israelis, but also what's happening to Palestinians as well.
Jonathan Berger and his family lived in Israel before moving to Wilmington 3 years ago. He says in times like this, there's nothing quite like being united with other people in the community.
Being here and being with the community is really important to be able to kind of have that sort of shared love.
Amy Deloach, the president of B'nai Israel, says it's been tough, however, to stay strong.
I was born here in Wilmington, 4th generation Jewish woman in Wilmington. I have never experienced anti-Semitism, and it's everywhere now.
Each candle lit tonight represents a different hope, prayer for the Jewish community moving forward.
Soon may the children of Gaza and Israel play together safely in the streets.
Amen. And they say Tuesday's vigil may be a step toward that brighter future.
When you have the support of your friends and your community and other faith leaders, the mayor was here, city council members, we're not alone, and that means the world to us.
John, leaders tell me this will not become an annual event unless acts of anti-Semitism continue. Leaders also share that they hope people can declare proudly that they are Jewish without having to worry about hateful comments.
All right, Emma, thanks.